Hello, this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show, and on today's show we are going to give the full state of Fort Bend County. We're going to give you a full update on everything involving Fort Bend County today, and on today's show we have two guests that are well qualified to do that. Today we have Kenneth Omoruyi. Kenneth, how are you doing?
Very good. Thank you so much. And the last time I was here, I was not a candidate then, but, well, glad to say that I formally announced my candidacy to run for the position of Fort Bend County Judge. And so good to be back.
Right. That's great. And to give Kenneth's full bio, he is a board member of the Texas State Board of Public Accountancy. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you are also the owner of CKO CPAs and Advisors.
Absolutely. That's a firm we started here in Fort Bend County, Sugarland, actually. So I used to work for Schlumberger. That's my background, oil and gas. And well, in 2017, my family welcomed a set of triplets, and that made me make the decision to, want to start my own firm. I think it was a decision that was deliberately made so I can be in my kids' life. I want to be present in my kids' life. And I started my CPA firm in Sugarland, and God blessed us, and we've expanded our reach. Now we have a branch outside of Sugarland. We have one in LaGrange and one in Houston.
Yeah, your company recently had a major acquisition. Is
Absolutely.
that right?
Yes, we're now in LaGrange, Texas. We own the biggest firm in CPA firm in the Fayetteville County.
That's incredible. Yep.
Thank you.
And we have also with us Laura Richards, who is the Fort Bend County Clerk. Laura, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Great to be here.
Good, good. Well, it's glad to finally have you on the show. You know, I've been bumping into you for 4 years now.
This is true.
In the county commissioner's courts, usually in some sort of a heated, tense showdown that's happening at the county. And, it's not really a chance for friendly talk at those points. So it's finally nice to get to meet you and get to actually know a little bit about you. So,
well, the great thing about commissioner's court, which some people don't realize, is you can express your view as to what's on the agenda. And I always encourage people to do that.
Yeah, yep. And we certainly have. The way I describe Fort Bend County, I think that 4 years ago the county residents were asleep at the wheel, but today they are alive, alert, and asking too many questions that make the county commissioners feel a little bit uncomfortable. But I think that's what needs to happen. So it's a very, very interesting time, very fascinating time. I feel like we're in the process of possibly getting the reins back under control in Fort Bend County. The county's been in a state of abject, in my opinion, lawlessness and just a state of turmoil for 4 years. We're going to talk more about that. But before we get into that, one of the most pivotal things in Fort Bend County's history is the coming election of the county judge. And for those of you who don't know, the county judge in the state of Texas is not a judge. I don't know why we call our chief county executive in Texas the county judge, but we do. And what the county judge is he's essentially the chief manager, the CEO of the county. He's in charge of all the county administration. And what's happened over the past so many years is where our county judge is nothing more than really a managerial position, an executive position, but a managerial position where they're there to make sure that the infrastructure's in good shape, that the trucks are gassed up, that the emergency services are operable and in top form, and not much more than that. But we've sort of seen our county executives, they sort of taken more of a parental role in Fort Bend County where they begin to chime in on matters that are completely inappropriate, and they've really taken sort of an authoritarian position. We can get into all that. But with that being said, right now what's happening is this is all coming to a head with the county judge race, which is kicked off, it's launched, it's in full go mode, and it is the most pivotal election in Fort Bend County. And with us today, we have one candidate for Fort Bend County Judge, Kenneth Omoruyi. Kenneth, I want to hear, what is the state of your campaign today? Because you just launched, is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so grateful again to say that we just launched. The last time I was here, we were still not in the race, but now we are in the race. So it is a very, very pivotal moment, like you said. We recently had a switch, right? The current county judge switched from the Democrat Party to the Republican Party, and there are a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to unpack there. But we have an opportunity as a county.
Yeah, so I would just like to chime in on that a little bit. Just for those of you who are not familiar with Fort Bend, we've had an activist judge, KP George. He has been hugely detrimental in a way that's it's never happened like this in the history of Fort Bend County. With him in charge, he's assumed controls that are just outlandish and absurd. To give you an idea, One thing he took a position on the shutdown of the Russian embassy in Fort Bend County. He took a position where he called for the expulsion of Russian embassy officials, in Harris County. That is no position for a judge to take. We have a huge Russian population in Fort Bend County, in Harris County, that are dependent on the Russian embassy for essential services, to communicate, to travel to their homeland, to have the dearest of relatives and family members visit them here locally. And our county judge, KP George, took a position to shut down that office. He did it in some sort of administrative note that he didn't put together. He's not bright enough to put that note together. Somebody wrote that, sent it to him, probably from D.C., and then he read it out loud and published it. It's completely absurd for our Fort Bend County officials to be getting involved in international affairs, to be essentially taking a hostile position towards a sovereign nation. And that's just one thing that he did. But possibly the most egregious thing that he did was he, with the swipe of a pen, began shutting down local businesses during the Wuhan flu epidemic. During the Wuhan flu epidemic, he took that as an opportunity to expand his powers and his authorities over local small businesses, not the big box retailers, the small guys, the parents of Fort Bend, the family members of Fort Bend. He shut off their precious income so that they couldn't put food on the table anymore. That's what your county judge did in Fort Bend County. And that gives you just one idea. That is just one small example in a long list of some of the criminal actions done at the hands of county officials, and that while the Texas Democrats run our Fort Bend County. Okay? So that's why now guys like Kenneth are jumping in the ring. Kenneth, his background, he comes from a purely business background. Okay? He's run businesses, he's built businesses, he comes from, he has an executive background, then he launched his own business. He's the guy that KP George would be shutting down if he could, okay? So now Kenneth is running in this race, and there's a lot of candidates running in the race, and everyone, you need to get involved in this race because there's a lot of good candidates, and it is hugely consequential in the future of Fort Bend County. Everything's on the line right now. Tell us more about the state of your campaign.
Yes, so thank you again. One of the things that we're trying to focus on...
If I may say, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. I apologize. My whole point of saying that is KP George is now in a pinch where he's gotten in trouble with the law, and he, in a desperate move, he's attempting to switch parties to the Republican side. And he will be on the county election ballot under the name, not KP George, but Kyle, or what is the name that he'll be under?
I think his first name is Kyle, I believe.
Yeah, Kyle George. So there will be a candidate, KP George, Kyle George. That is KP George, the guy that was shutting down our local businesses, Fort Bend, 4 years ago, is now trying to run under a new name in Fort Bend County. Be aware of that when you're going into those voting polls. Apologize for interrupting you, Kenneth.
No, absolutely. I think we launched our campaign to take the county leadership back to the original basis of why the county government was set up in the first place. When I was at the last show, one of the things that I stated was when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse becomes inevitable. The purpose of why county government was set up was for primarily three reasons. I broke them down to PPP, I call it. Public Health Emergency Preparedness. Some people call it Emergency Preparedness. I just call it PPP, Public Health Emergency Preparedness. Public Infrastructural Development, and Public Safety. Now, that is the core mission of a county government. That is why those are the essential basis of why a county government was set up. But when we deviate from that core duties of the county government, then we start to dabble into things that are not part of the core mission of the county. So we want to return the county back to the original reason why the county was set up in the first place.
I agree entirely. What they do is they purposely make things convoluted and complicated and hard to understand, and they attempt to grow the size of government, the duties of government, the operations of government, so that you can no longer assess what is the role of your county government or the job that they're performing. And in those hidden details, all of the friends and family are profiteering. And our county is in a state of despair right now. So essentially what you're saying is you want to return it to the basics.
Can
I sum it up in that way?
Yes. So now, the way we explain it is returning back to the basics. How do we do it? We want to achieve that through what we call the GATE principle, which is through grace, accountability, transparency, and efficiency in government. I can go into in detail the state of the county right now. We're currently just wrapping up the budget hearing for next year fiscal year, but I have taken time to study the county budget for the past 8 years, from 2018 to 2025. And some of the numbers I'm going to be sharing, they are things that should concern any taxpayer in the county.
So I'd just like to say we had County Commissioner Andy Myers on last week, and the entire purpose of that show was redistricting. But during the entire show, what I had to do was hold Andy back because he wanted to talk about the state of debt in the county. You know, we only had 1 hour, so we had to stay on subject. But I can tell you that Andy was desperate to talk about the state of debt and the dangerous position we are in with regard to our county, regarding the amount of debt that we'll be placing on the future citizens of Fort Bend County. Go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
No, that is, I think, one of the biggest things that anyone want to hear. In Texas, we have 254 counties, and Fort Bend County ranks as one of the top 10 counties in terms of population sizes. But among 254 counties in Texas, Fort Bend County ranks number 3, third highest in debt per capita in Texas. So what that means in English is, if you take the total debt burden of the county and you divide it by the population of the county, we rank number 3 in the whole state of Texas. I mean, when you take a look at what that means comparatively to counties that are of similar pair sizes, like Dallas County, Travis County, we are way, way ahead of them. For example, when we do that, the debt per capita in Fort Bend County is about $1,400 per each person. So if you live in Fort Bend County today, you owe an average of between $1,400 and $1,500 as far as county debt is concerned. That's what that means. If you live in a major metropolitan county like Travis County, it's actually less than that, which should border, if you are comparing apples to apples or oranges to oranges, what we're saying here is that we are having a debt burden greater than what a similar county size does have, or do have in other counties.
So I wanted to explain one of the issues that comes with this. One of the unforeseen problems is that no new residents want to move into a county that has that kind of debt. So what happens is your property values decrease, and you get an element in the county of renters who don't have a vested interest in the county because they can just move on. If you rent, you don't have this debt on your head. And that means the whole quality of the county begins to sag. And that's why Andy Myers is pounding his fist saying, people need to wake up to that. That's why Kenneth's bringing it to the issue. If I may ask Laura, is this an issue that's being discussed in the county commissioner's court? Can you talk about that at all?
It is. And the way I like to frame it is, how do you run your own budget in your family? Are you just constantly charging everything to a credit card? Because that's what the county is doing. They're charging it to the credit card, and guess what? You've got interest rates on that. You've got to pay it off at some point in time, right?
Yes.
So that's the way I like to look at it, and that's the way, because people don't always understand, well, what's a certificate of obligation, all right? Well, essentially, it's a debt to the county, all right? And it's been very prevalent in the last 8 years.
So one of the things is that when the government released the Wuhan flu on our people, every county official saw that as an opportunity, because what happened is then the floodgates of money came from the feds into our county officials. Now, I can tell you that I've spoken off the record to county officials, and they say there is no way that all that money did not hit the accounts of people in some way or another in places of position personally. But with that being said, regardless of that point, there was just a ton of money that came in. And what happened is, when you give a drug addict drugs, he wants more and more and more. So the county officials didn't look at it as just one hit. They need more. They need a continuous hit of that cash. And so when that Wuhan flu, or I should use the politically correct term, COVID money cut off, they needed to substantiate more funds, and they went out with the bonds. Okay? and then they jack us up on more debt. The COVID money that came in only gave a crack addict more crack, okay? Didn't fix anything. It just worsened the problem because now they need that money all the time. Is that right, Kenneth?
No, so yeah, you're right. I was talking about the study of the last 7 or 8 years of the county's budget. And it's very alarming to say that I'll refer to it as an accountant. So my profession is I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA. There's what we call debt service explosion. Okay, that's what we are experiencing in Fort Bend County. Just to put that in perspective.
He said debt service explosion.
Explosion. In 2018, the county debt was about $53.6 million just in 2018. For next year, 2026, is projected to be close to $150 million in debt servicing. The debt
That's
itself,
for Fort Bend County, $150 million in debt servicing. That means interest on the credit card.
That's correct. That's correct. So just very good that you made that distinction.
Yes.
The amount of debt we are owing is close to $1.7
I wanna set
billion
the
with a B.
1 point, how many?
About approximately $1.7 billion.
I want to
in total.
explain the history of Fort Bend County so people can, one perspective, the way I look at it. This is a traditional Texas county, old country. That's all it is, right? It was small government, hometown, you know, it was everything that you saw in the old movies, okay? And the idea that we now have exploded into a debt machine, into this overloading of debt, is completely foreign to the history and the traditions of Fort Bend County. The people the generations that came before us wouldn't even conceive that this thing could have gotten the way it did. And why did it happen? Because of opportunists in your county government. We had Andy Myers on here last week, 2 weeks ago, and he was desperate to get his word out because on that commissioner's court, he's pigeonholed. He's put in a corner, he's pigeonholed because he's the only guy out there championing the idea of meeting the balanced budget. He's the only guy out there, and he's pounding his fist trying to bring awareness to this. We had him on the show, and he got his first chance to talk about it a little bit. But what I'm trying to say is that this needs to be the main issue in our county administration today. Go ahead.
So Andy, actually, I don't know if you know, he's also a CPA like me.
I didn't know that, no.
Yeah, he's a CPA. The reason why it's important to rein this in to make it make sense is that as far as our next fiscal year budget is concerned, 20% of the county's budget is devoted towards paying that debt servicing. 20%. So now, and when you say that, maybe the rebuttal could be, okay, what are other counties paying? The typical county of our size pay between 5 and 10% of their debt servicing. We're paying double that amount.
So that's another reason why KP George would bring up things like, you know, international relations with a sovereign country, international relations with Russia. It's not because he cares about Russia. It's because he's taking every opportunity to divert your eyes and your attention off of the matter at hand, which is the money that he's spending, your money that he's spending every day. So he's saying, look over there. We should go to war with Russia. That's what he's doing. So you don't think about what's going on right here. Go ahead, Kenneth.
No, so I think it's very important for us to realize that the stat that I mentioned between 2018 and 2025, the debt service has tripled, not doubled, tripled from 50 million thereabout to about 150 million. So think about it as earning $1,000 in salary, just for simplicity, and 20% of that amount is used to pay for your credit card debt. That's what I'm talking about. You earn $1,000 every 2 weeks, and you take 20%, which is $200 just for credit card servicing. That is currently what the county is paying.
Go ahead, please, Laura.
Oh, I was going to comment. Another factor within the budget is when all of the COVID federal money, flooded in, they funded all these new positions, right? And so the idea, and Andy was a champion of this, is okay, we'll fund it for now because we have these federal dollars and we're going to use them. And then when these dollars are gone, these positions go away. Well, guess what? The positions did not go away. They got folded into the budget and funded out of the general revenue. And we're talking about a lot of positions.
If anyone wants to see the future of these country town Texas counties, every county that is butted up against Harris County, just look to Harris County. Because Harris County now has dozens of positions that make over $400,000 a year. The salaries in Harris County are so offensive that it's completely out of hand at this point, and it is the future of each and every Texas county if this stuff isn't taken into control.
Yeah, no. So coupled with what I just made, the stat I just gave, we are experiencing another phenomenon called chronic budget underestimation. Okay, I'll explain what that concept means.
Yes.
Okay.
Chronic budget underestimation.
Correct. When you project, you have estimate versus actual, right? You anticipate or you estimate you're going to spend this amount in next year, and you end up spending way above, whatever amount that was estimated, and it's something that is constant. It's not like a one-off or a margin of difference that is negligible. It becomes a problem. That's also one of the things we're experiencing. Just to put that in perspective, the data reveals a systematic underestimation of debt costs. So in 2020, for example, we budgeted $55 million in the debt servicing. The actual debt servicing was about $170 million. So that disparity there is very, very significant.
Yeah. If I may give a quick second here, I want to go over our featured product. It is the X39 patch. Trying to get it on the screen there. The X39 patch. So this patch, I've been wearing this patch for 6 weeks now. And just to give you an idea of this patch, it was introduced to me by a friend who is a PTSD war veteran who had major sleep issues. He had to take a considerable amount of sleep medication in order to sleep every night. He began taking the X39 patch, and within two weeks, he no longer needed sleep medication to sleep anymore. He sleeps like a baby every night in spite of his PTSD, in spite of all the issues that he has from being an injured war veteran. He wears the patch and he sleeps like a baby every night. And what this is, it's photolight therapy. So everybody's body's emitting light. And what this does is it returns the light back to your body, reflects it back into your body, and stimulates your stem cells. So just to give you an idea, I hang out in the MMA gyms as a pastime. I grapple. And when an MMA fighter or any kind of pro athlete gets hurt, his income's on the line, they go get stem cell injections, which they pull from an aborted fetus. It's really disgusting. But what it does is it rejuvenates your stem cells. This rejuvenates your stem cells. It's not a stem cell injection. It rejuvenates your stem cells naturally. None of that nasty business that comes with aborted babies or anything like that really gross business. This is completely natural in the way that it should be done. It stimulates it through photolight therapy, and it heals your body overall. Since I've been taking it, I have had zero need for caffeine. I used to drink a lot of caffeine. I do not drink caffeine anymore. I wake up out of bed, sharp as a tack, begin working on, I have no fog brain. I begin working on the most detailed projects. And I have no energy crashes throughout the day. I do not get sleepy behind the wheel. My productivity is off the charts. It's the X39 patch. It's an overall healing of your body through photolight therapy, completely natural. And to learn more or to receive a discount, text the word Patriot to 330-606-2304. Text the word Patriot to 330-606-2304 to learn about the X39 patch. Okay, so you were telling me about how our debt...
Correct, yes.
Go, please.
Yes, we're talking about...
Oh, no, Lori, you were going to say something, please.
Well, I was going to say, in regards to the budget, here we are, almost 900,000 in population. We're going to be 1 million there very soon,
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
We also, as a county, get unfunded mandates from the state constantly. We've just been through a legislative session. I am constantly having to consume services that the state is now telling me that I have to perform with,
With the limited budget that you're
with a
given.
limited budget. Exactly. All right. So there is such a thing as smart growth
Right.
in a budget
Right.
if you're efficiently managing it. So yes, there's the state of our debt. There's also the state of myself as a department head who has 100 people reporting to me and efficiently managing those people as best I can. And yet our population is growing. The services and demands on my department are even more. So there are occasions where I have to go to Commissioner's Court and say, look, I need 3 more clerks for this, that, or the other because of XYZ, either the state or the services or the demands that are being made on my department. So there are good reasons for those type of things. The problem is we're growing it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
No, so I'm going to tie what you just said now to one of the things that we touched on earlier. When you look at the budgets between 2018 and 2025, you realize that our budget in 2018 compared to 2025 has almost tripled, okay? But the population of Fort Bend County has only increased by about 27.2%. The last time I was on this show, I mentioned something that I want to repeat. We don't have a revenue generation problem in Fort Bend County. We have a fiscal responsibility spending problem in Fort Bend County.
I think Laura's point is very astute. These things come up, unfunded mandates from the government, from the federal government. Could you give me one example of one?
My unfunded mandates come from the state
That's what I meant to
legislature.
say.
Yes, the state legislature. And it could be as simple as one more report that I have to get to the Office of Court Administration. Well, what does that mean? Well, it depends. I'm going to have to, get into my case management system. I'm going to have to run reports. I'm going to have to compile it. I'm going to have to put it together in the form that they want it. And there may be a time limitation with that. I may have to get it, every 24 hours to them. And so there are all these limitations on my time. Well, I've got clerks that are already working overtime in some cases. I can't put more on them because then I have constant turnover of clerks, and it takes almost a year to completely train a clerk in my office because of all the myriad of processes that we have to go through. So you can see it's a problem.
I think everyone needs to be cognizant of the staff that's working in these governmental, entities, that, a lot of them are worked to the bone.
Yes,
and
they
they're
are.
overburdened in all of these things. And I think that all that happens, I think, though, that the county commissioners are not looking at these things and saying, how do we meet the unfunded mandates? How do we, make the work burden fair to our employees and then meet budgets? That last component, I just don't think that they're looking at. I don't think they just think the answer is always to go out and get more millions from the citizens.
I think at the end of the day, we say in accounting, there's a tone at the top that dictates how
Yes.
the body flows.
Because
right?
Correct.
I think all of these challenges that Laura's presenting, as well as the budgetary issues that Kenneth is presenting, I think that we could solve all those challenges and be under budget. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. So here's the deal. There's what we call double burden. Double burden is a situation.
Double burden.
Yes, is a situation where you're dealing with debt explosion, right? Debt crisis, and then also higher taxes. We need to talk about that for a second because
Debt explosion and higher taxes. So you're already submerged in debt, and then they're going to tax you on top of it, so you have less of an income, and they're going to take more of it.
correct. So what that ends up snowballing into is the taxpayer is paying
They're
twice.
kamikazing the taxpayer.
Correct. It's a failure in the management of the county's finances. And that's why poor leadership results in these chronic, what they call budget overruns, where you have a situation where there's an amount that was estimated for debt servicing, and the actual estimate versus actual is very, very significant. And then the taxes coupled with that, these burdens, fall back on the taxpayer, because at the end of the day, the national average of property taxes in the U.S. is about 1.02%, and in Fort Bend County is 2.06%.
Okay, so I would like to say that if there, like, let's say that you're the new county judge, it's not like you can just, whip up these solutions in a minute. This is a complicated issue, and I would like to think that if I was county judge, the first thing I'd look to go and see if I could renegotiate the terms of this debt, bring down the debt burden, I'd ask them to cut off some of the principal and bring down the rates. I mean, is that a solution?
No. So here is it. You're right.
Because I have a feeling these lenders are part of the problem.
No, you're right. I think
predatory lending.
I think at the end of the day, the debt is killing us, right? Coupled with it all falls down to the taxpayers, who is going to be the end consumer of all of this.
Yeah, and when the debt comes due, all of our current county commissioners are all gone.
Right.
They're all retired.
So it starts with being fiscally responsible. Okay, if you're owing a high credit card debt that is consuming 20% of whatever amount you are bringing in every 2 weeks or every month, the problem is not only going to fall on how do we ensure that we go and negotiate with the person who is the financial institution of the credit card, is how do you caution yourself? Because if I give you $20,000 today and ask you, can you finish it? I'm sure you can. By the swipe of a finger, you can use it to do anything you want. We need to be fiscally responsible, right? There needs to be structures in place.
I guess I'm gonna push back on that a little bit if you don't mind. And what I'm saying is this: I never imagined that this show would turn into a show where we talk about debt every other week. It's like we can rename the show. You're just gonna talk about debt. Why are we always talking about debt? Because it's something that is just killing our society from end to end. I had to go into small claims court 2 weeks ago. Every person in there was being sued by a credit card company.
Yeah.
This is predatory. The men who set up the foundations of this country, they did it with the purpose of strangleholding us all with debt. We're all got a noose around our neck, being hung by the lenders. And so what I'm trying to say is, if I was county judge, I would turn around and confront these lenders, and I'd want to know their names, the companies they work for. I apologize, I'm not up to speed on all this stuff. And I want to know the rates they're charging, and I would immediately begin threatening them in some way, form, or fashion to bring down the rates and to take a haircut.
No, so that's a very good way to start. There are myriad of ways to actually. How do we bring, implementable solutions? One of the ways we can do that is actually to cut our property tax rate. Significantly, when we win our election, we intend to do that. We can also eliminate what we call those unnecessary special districts, right? We need to eliminate that and then consolidate overlapping taxing entities. We can do that and then increase homestead exemptions for families.
Okay, so Kenneth, everything that you just said, I want to know about, but their show is limited. And I think that you just possibly gave a solution that would require another hour. I'm just going to ask you, because we want to go over one very important topic, which is deed fraud. But can you go ahead and summarize this issue and what you intend to do as county? Well, I got one more question. Are any other candidates for county judge talking about this stuff?
Well,
because the ones that are Democrats, I have a feeling that they're running from it.
Right now, we are the. Again, I'm a CPA, right? One of the hallmark of our profession is being accountable. I'm an accountant, so I want to be accountable to the county, fiscally responsible as well. I want to be able to use the skills that we have. I don't know of any other candidate that combines the qualities or combines these experiences. Well, I hope you make it a
forefront issue, and I hope you put it in every one of your opponents' faces. What are you going to do about it? Because they don't want to talk about it.
Right. So, no, there are a myriad of solutions that we have already thought about. Again, I can go on and on with. I mentioned earlier on, we can consolidate overlapping taxing entities. We can increase homestead exemptions for families. And then we can create an enhanced senior tax relief program for our seniors to help them mitigate some of this.
Okay, that was an incredible hour. I would like to say we have another very interesting person in our studio today, Laura Richards. And Laura, I feel like you are sort of the woman that's not sort of the front and center face of the county, right? But you're always at every meeting. You're in the background. Yeah. And I have a feeling that you know more about the county than anyone with your position. Tell us exactly what you do for the county.
All right. So as county clerk, I'm clerk of the court for the county courts at law. of which there are 6. They hear misdemeanor, civil, probate, mental health, toll road, and juvenile cases. All right, so every single filing goes through my office. All the orders from the judges come into my office, and we record all of that information. I'm also the clerk of the court for Commissioner's Court, which is probably where you see me on live stream. I'm up there keeping track of what the commissioners are saying, what the decisions are that they are making, which has been a challenge lately, I will say, because there's been a lot of arguing back and forth, and sometimes I have to stop them to say, wait a minute, what are you deciding here? And what is the vote? And so all of the documents that flow through Commissioner's Court are my responsibility, and I house those. I house the official public records, which are primarily the land records, but also DBAs, assumed names, affidavits, things like that are recordable within the official public records of the county. And then I am the local registrar, so I issue birth certificates, death certificates, and marriage licenses. So it's a big job. As I say, I have 100 people that report to me.
One thing I'll quickly mention to that is, I'm sure you know that Laura is one of the most loved county officials in Fort Bend County, and she has done an amazing, when I mean amazing, she's touched. We want to be able to leave a legacy where you look back and be proud of whatever you have done. You want to leave a place better than you met it, and Laura have done.
Excellent, very good. Laura, one of the things you said before the show is you said something to the effect of that people need to be more aware of the issues that are brought in front of their faces in the county commissioner's court.
Yes, absolutely.
That if people just paid attention to the county commissioner's court, they would have enough of an understanding of the county functions to know what the true issues are. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so many people will come to me and say, well, I heard this, I heard that, I heard this. If you would come to Commissioner's Court, you would see the actual people that are voting on this. You don't even have to come. Go to live stream. Sit in the comfort of your own home and view it.
How long is County Commissioner's Court?
How long?
How long? If I went, it's 2 hours?
That depends.
It depends.
An
Yes,
average about 2 hours, I would say.
I apologize I interrupted you. Please
I would
keep
say
going.
that's okay. I mean, we've had them gone on, for 4 hours or
That's
more.
a rare thing,
depending on how much kind of ranting and raving there is.
And
that
they're
goes
once
on.
a month?
No, it's second and fourth. Well, that's a good question. It's been second and fourth Tuesday of every month at 1:00. However, the legislature threw us a curve. The agenda that was posted for the second and fourth Tuesday of the month was to be there for 72 hours. Legislature has now changed that to 3 business days. So the Commissioner's Court has now changed when Commissioner Court is held to 1:00 on Thursdays, second and fourth Thursday.
Okay, but I interrupted you. Please tell me again how, if people just come and attend these commissioners' courts, that they'll gain an understanding of what's really going on with the county.
Well, I mean, you will see the debt increase live in front of your eyes, right?
The debate.
Anytime you see the certificates of obligation, the debt that's being created in the county, you will see it live in front of your eyes. And I think there's no bigger, reminder of what's happening with the county than seeing it in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
Happen. The purchases that are being made, the decisions that each commissioner is making, their votes, the county judge as well, and what they're objecting to.
Right.
All right. Even more importantly, what are their comments in regards to these votes? Because you can see the vote and say, oh, okay, well, I see the vote.
But what does it
But
mean?
listen to their comments about their votes, and what they're advocating for or advocating against is maybe even more important.
Right. No, that's true. I think it's a place, I've been there a couple of times, and of course have spoken out or spoken there a few times. But one of the things that someone did mention is just to bring it to the knowledge of the people is that within the Houston metropolitan area, Fort Bend County has the highest property tax rate. Do you know that? So an average Fort Bend County resident pays about $1,400 more than Harris County resident.
So Fort Bend County has a higher tax rate than Harris County and
Property tax.
and any other county in this area.
In the Houston metropolitan area, that's correct. And
Well, we have public hearings coming up on the budget, all right? So, and that's posted out there.
Yes.
You will know when they are.
Yeah.
And come out and speak
Yes.
for or against
Absolutely.
the budget. The budget will be filed in my office. You can come and get a copy of it. It'll be online as well, fbctx.gov. Go to the website, view the details of the budget, view each department, view the overall obligations of the county, and then come and speak
Yes.
at the public hearings.
Yes.
So one of the things, Laura, that you were talking to me that's a real issue that you come across regularly in your job is the issue of deed fraud. Mm-hmm. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I actually like to call it property theft. All right, it puts a little more teeth to it. Think about if your wallet is stolen. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to make efforts to get it back. You're going to report it to law enforcement, and you're going to go through that process, right? Well, what people are doing is they are creating documents, filing them in the county clerk's office. They look very legitimate, I will tell you. My clerks are trained in looking at these documents, and we often see anomalies in them to where we are asking our legal counsel if they're recordable or not. Not every document is recordable, by the way, but once it is recorded, everything looks good. It's follows the form, it follows the correct language and so forth. It is recorded in the office. Doesn't mean it's legitimate. It actually could be fraudulent. And we see a lot of these deed transfers, all right? So, Kenneth, it may be your property, and they're transferring it from your name to their name. All right.
Wow.
And then they may even go a further step where they file a DBA in my office, creating an assumed name for a company, and then they transfer it from their name to the DBA. So they're clouding the title.
Wow.
All right. And they are actually stealing this away from the true owner. They may even be selling it then to an unsuspecting buyer, all right? And we see these in a lot of the sort of the person-to-person contract issues rather than going through a title company. I always advocate going through a title company, by the way. And so they are actually reaping the rewards of your property that you have poured your time, effort, and money into.
I have a personal experience with this. So I have a friend. Okay, let me tell the story from the beginning. So there was this criminal, and what he would do is he would wait for a landowner to die.
Yeah.
And then what he would do is he would assume the name of the heir, of the manager of the estate. Okay? So the landowner died, and then his nephew became the manager of the estate. While the family was in mourning, this landowner was a doctor, and he owned multiple properties paid off. And one property that he owned was on State Highway 249. It was a big box. It was a 28,000 square foot building. Okay? And so what this criminal did was he waited, that landowner died, it went to his nephew, and then what this criminal did was he went and he got fraudulent documents stating that he was the true heir to the property, the manager of the estate. He got a notary to notarize that illegally.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And then he stole the properties. And what he did is then he sold them. This building, this 28,000 square foot building was over probably 1.8 million. He sold it for 300,000 to a real estate investor in New York. Now that real estate investor in New York may have been in on the scam. Okay? Because what happened then is finally the nephew woke up to this crime.
Right.
And what he did was he sued. The truth is there's a law where you can actually go to the courts. I forget the name of this. I knew all this stuff. But you can go, and if you can go to a certain governmental department, and a district court can award the property back to you if there's obvious deed fraud.
That's correct.
Okay? And they can do that without you having to go through a legal process. And the purpose of that law is to ensure that you aren't that they don't steal your property, knowing you have to go through a legal process that you can't survive. So but the problem is that they didn't have all the evidence when this happened. So what the heir did, I apologize for all these details, is he sued the new buyer of the property who put him in a major legal process. And what happened is there was a judge named Jerry Siminow in Harris County District Court, and he took, for some reason, a resistant stance against the property owner, and he kept ruling against him in so many ways. The landowner lost. and it went to appeals court. The appeals court said, you have to take this back to Seminole. He's got to hear it again. It went back to Seminole, but when it went back, the criminal got indicted by the Harris County DA, where he confessed orally and he confessed written, and he spent 10 years hard time in the state pen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It went back to Seminole again with all this evidence. Seminole would not return the property.
Wow.
And when people asked him why, he said, I don't need to give you a reason why.
Wow.
So when you go tell that to attorneys, because the way deed fraud is in the courts, it's the third rail. The minute deed fraud happens, the courts have to give you your property back. Seminole wouldn't do it.
Interesting.
The evidence was overwhelming. And now people have to ask the question.
That's a shame.
Why would a district court not do that? Why? And there's only one, in my opinion, there's only one conclusion that I come from, and all I'm going to say is that real estate investors in New York have a lot of cash.
Yeah, both civil and criminal penalties apply. The Clerks Association worked real closely with the legislature this year to try to put more teeth into that. And property fraud will be filed as a felony, so we're glad for that. And yes, you can do hard time. People have done hard time for it, but it's now codified and in the Code of Criminal Procedure. So there's a lot more teeth to it now, where prosecutors can file against it. But meanwhile, what you're going to have to do, it is not an easy process by any means. You're going to have to file a motion with the district clerk, who's going to file it with the district court, and the judge is going to issue a finding of facts and conclusion of law. Presumably, that would come back in your favor as the true owner. That's going to be filed with me in the official public records, and it's actually going to be attached to the fraudulent document, so that forever people will know that is a fraudulent document. I am not allowed as the county clerk to unrecord a document. Those documents are permanent.
I apologize. I gave one detail in my story wrong. The judge that would not give the property back was a probate court judge because it had to do with the death of the individuals, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we couldn't get it out of the probate court to take it to a district court because then the heir is no longer named, because that Judge Seminole has the right, like he's got to deem this guy the heir, so it'll only happen in a probate court. But everyone was telling us if you take it to a district court, the funny business doesn't happen so much there. And I think that's my one message to people. If you've been a victim of deed fraud, try to get it into a district court.
So what do you do to try to at least get the heads up that something has been filed against your name or your property? What you do is you go to my website, fbctx.gov/county clerk, and right on my homepage, you'll see property fraud alert. And so you're going to click on that, and you're going to register for this free program. Cost you absolutely nothing. You're going to put your name in there. You're going to put your business name in there. You're going to put your trust name in there if you have your property in a trust name. And anytime anything is filed in the official public records of the Fort Bend County Clerk's office, you're going to get an alert, either a text, a voicemail, or an email, your choice, that something has been filed. So what if you own a property and maybe you're in a contractor dispute or something, and he files a lien against your property? Well, you wouldn't necessarily know that. You're not checking the official public records every day, are you, for your property or for your name? And you will get an alert that a lien was filed against your property. I mean, I've had people come in and say, hey, I'm trying to sell my property, and all of a sudden, the title company's telling me, well, there's a lien out there. Well, you would have gotten a notice that a lien was filed against your property. And so you would know that before you ever get to that point.
And again, our elderly are the ones they prey on.
Absolutely. We have the bad element that will actually knock on their doors and try to convince them to sign these phony contracts deeding their property to them. And they've got a whole line that they give them about how it's to their advantage and so forth. And unfortunately, they fall prey to this.
Well, I mean, and the concept of what you just explained is outstanding, by the way. Having that on your website, I think a lot of people need to know
it is a free service.
Outstanding.
I want to say something. I think at the same time, corrupt county also preys on their elderly citizens, because I've been told stories where, for example, an elderly woman begins to fall behind on the cutting of her grass, and what happens is these men who cut grass for free will come to attempt to cut the grass. The county will step in and not allow them to cut the grass with the intent of putting liens on that woman, so that they can eventually get a hold of that property. I've heard these stories as well. So I feel
And
like
there are HOA problems out there in regards to those.
yeah.
Yes.
So I feel
Yeah.
like our elderly are. So I appreciate you bringing this, Laura, because really we're just scratching the surface on all of the ways that our elderly are a threat to the opportunists in our society.
Well, yeah, and they have the most equity in the houses as well. So then what they will do is these, fraudulent people will then get a loan based on the equity in that house, right?
Right.
I mean, we've had people come in our office and say, I just drove by my property. Maybe they don't live there. Maybe it's a piece of property they own, and there's a for sale sign on it, because they're not there every day.
Right.
Or it happened to be an abandoned, business or something like that. I will tell you that when you come into my office, the first thing we're going to do as you file in the official public records is we're going to look at that notary seal, because we've had a lot of notary fraud out there, which you mentioned in regards to that case,
that
right?
guy got a legit notary. He got a notarist to actually do it.
Right, exactly. And I'm not saying the notaries are all at fault
No,
either,
right.
but in this
Absolutely not.
case, and what led me to this point was I had a lady come in my office and say, this is a fraudulent document. This is my property, and they took it from me. So the first thing I did was, as I'm looking at this document, which looked absolutely perfect, I will tell you, in every regard. I mean, it looked legitimate. And so the only thing I could really look at was the notary seal. I looked at the notary seal, went on the Secretary of State's site just to check it out, just wanted to make sure it was legitimate. Well, in fact, this notary seal expired in 2023, and yet the seal had been manipulated to say 2025.
Wow.
So when you come in my office, the first thing we're going to do is make sure that notary seal is legitimate.
How do you verify it? I mean,
Go to the Secretary of State site, and you will see if a notary seal has expired by their name, or if it is in fact legitimate and it is still in play.
I mean, can you imagine in this day and age where, artificial intelligence is taking over, right? These are some of the modern technologies that we want to implement.
Yeah,
and,
these software products are
introduce.
great and can
Exactly.
be used for good, but in
Right.
this case, they're manipulating it to use it to change, a
Right.
government document
Right.
to make it fraudulent.
that's why it's essential that, for example, services like the Texas Secretary of State, SOS Direct service, that's essential to us, because
Correct.
that's where you can go do this verification.
Correct.
They can't get to that database.
Exactly.
And again, they can now, yes, they can use it for bad, right? For
Yes.
evil. One of the ways we can actually get around that is to integrate with some of these systems at the state level to be able to ensure that we have safeguards around these.
And
types of
that's what I'm
records.
trying to do.
Amazing.
I'm not trying to put barriers in place. I'm trying to put safeguards in
Yes,
place.
this is outstanding.
I want to protect that property owner.
Yes.
People in this community that have put their sweat, tears, and money into
Right.
their property, and it's probably the largest asset that you own.
Absolutely.
Of your life. And so, we don't want this theft to occur, and that's why I call it theft.
Yes.
Because there's a little more teeth in that fraud. That's kind of soft soaps it a little bit.
Yeah,
It's theft.
For my friend who had this done to him, every Harris County government department reacted in a minute, swiftly, wanting the right thing to be done. They were simply stopped by a probate court judge.
Right.
So I just want to make that point that, generally speaking, the county administrations will respond to your issue in a minute with the right, they will want that rectified.
And that's why I say, and I know Kenneth would agree with this, when people come to that ballot to vote, please go all the way down and vote all the way down. Do your homework, go all the way down, because these local offices, my office, the county treasurer, the JPs, the judges, the county judges, the commissioners, they will influence your life much more than the federal or even the state people. I'm not saying don't vote for them. Vote all the way down. Start at the top and vote all the way down. But please go all the way down, because we have people who'll stop in the middle and say, well, I voted for president. Well, I voted for, my state legislator. No, keep going. Do your homework and keep going.
No, I can emphasize that point enough. They say all politics are local. It starts from the top. When you look at the way and manner in which we campaigned in the last election, They say, soft on crimes, right? And you see, you want more Republican or conservative judges that will actually, adjudicate rightly, right?
Correct.
So, many of these are down ballot, candidates.
Many of them, yes,
Yeah,
correct.
so we need to really let the voters educate them to be able to, vote down the ballot and pick the right candidates.
Well, it's been a great hour, and one of the things I want to say is I'm so glad that finally I was able to meet Laura and get to know her and have her on the show. I feel like you are just a wealth of information, and I feel like we just scratched the surface. So I hope that we can have you on again. Incredible, and I'm so excited for your campaign and for that race. I feel like it is going to be a race that is going to be incredibly competitive, some serious drama. It's going to be a drama. And but I think get the popcorn out, because I feel like the Fort Bend County judge race is going to be one for the ages.
Well, I would like to first of all thank you, and I'm very grateful to be here with Laura, who again, she's done an outstanding work as a county clerk. Our official kickoff ceremony is coming up, and it's actually exactly 2 weeks from today. We are having our kickoff on September 20th, and Mattress Mac is going to be there. Sam Malone is going to be there. A lot of the people who local officials and some of the people who supporting our candidacy, they are going to be there. So if you're watching this, I want to urge you to come out and support us. It's going to be at the Museum of Natural Sciences in Sugarland on Saturday, September 20th from 6:30.
And what's your website?
Kenneth for FortBend.com. Kenneth, so how you register to come for the event, you go to Kenneth for FortBend.com.
Excellent, guys. Great hour. I thank you both.
Thank you.
So this is Chris Heasley with the Chris Heasley Radio Show, and we will be back here next Saturday with one more hot topic. Have a great week.